Good morning, middle one. Today we are going to start lesson 3. Lesson 3 is talk about the chemical equations and the chemical reactions. This lesson is talk about the chemical reactions between different elements to produce compounds. As we said before, the magnesium, which is an element, it's a metal. This metal loses 2 electrons during chemical reactions, changing into positive ion. And another element, which is non-metal. Oxygen is a non-metal. This oxygen, during reactions, gains 2 electrons, changing into negative ion. So now we are going to observe the reaction between the positive ion of magnesium with the negative ion, which is oxygen. This reaction occurs between 2 different elements, metal and non-metal. But this reaction needs heat, as we are going to see now. Now, this is the magnesium. Magnesium strip. Magnesium is a metal. It has a shiny luster. It's malleable. And of course, it's a good conductor of heat and electricity. This is the magnesium strip before reaction. And of course, the reaction between magnesium and atmospheric oxygen occurs only when heat is present, because magnesium doesn't react with atmospheric oxygen unless there is heat. So now we are going to do this experiment. The reaction between magnesium and atmospheric oxygen. Of course, the heat is very important. It's the condition of the reaction. This is the burning of the magnesium strip, the reaction between magnesium and atmospheric oxygen. Now, take a look at the product. This is magnesium oxide. Magnesium oxide is a white powder, which is a compound, of course. It's completely different from magnesium. Magnesium before reaction and after its reaction with oxygen. It's magnesium oxide now. Magnesium oxide is white powder. Now, what about the chemical reaction? The meaning of chemical reaction. As we observe now, of course, the reaction between magnesium and oxygen is a chemical reaction. What's meant by chemical reaction? It's the breaking down of bonds between reactants to produce new bonds in the products. What does that mean? Now, when we talk about magnesium, as we said, it's an element that reacts with oxygen. Oxygen also is another element, but there is a bond between 2 oxygen atoms. This bond between the 2 oxygen atoms is double covalent bond. And we said that this reaction never happens without heat. So heat is very important. The heat breaks down the bond between the 2 oxygen atoms. And each oxygen atom combines with 1 magnesium atom. Another oxygen combines with another magnesium atom to produce the compound magnesium oxide. As we saw, magnesium oxide was white powder. This is known as a chemical reaction. This chemical reaction consists of reactants and product and reaction condition. As we said that any chemical reaction must be written in the form. This form is called chemical equation. This form that you see is called chemical equation. So this chemical equation consists of reactants, magnesium and oxygen. What about the product that produced after the reaction? It's magnesium oxide. It's that product. And finally, which is very important, heat. The heat is called reaction condition. So this shape, this formula that we see is called chemical equation. What's meant by chemical equation? The chemical equation, it's the formula that represents reactants, product, or maybe more than one product, and the reaction condition. In this equation, the reaction condition is the heat, which is very important. Without heat, there will be no reaction between magnesium and oxygen. So reactants, product, and reaction condition. This is the formula which is called chemical equation. This chemical equation represents the reaction between magnesium and atmospheric oxygen. This reaction never happens without heat. So the heat is the reaction condition. Without heat, there will be no reaction. So in this reaction, as we said, the heat is very important. The heat breaks down the bond between the two oxygen atoms. This bond, which is a double covalent bond, breaks, and two separate or two free oxygen atoms produced. Each oxygen atom combines with one magnesium atom. Another oxygen atom combines with another magnesium atom. So we have two atoms of magnesium, not just one. Two atoms of magnesium react with two atoms of oxygen to produce a compound which is magnesium oxide. Now we have very important rule. This rule says that any chemical equation must be balanced, like the balance. The two pans or the two sides must be equal. So when you take a look at this equation, again, we said that each oxygen atom combines with one magnesium. So we have two oxygen atoms and two magnesium atoms. Now let's count the number of atoms. So the atoms of reactants must be equal to number of atoms of the product. So we have two magnesium atoms. And in the product we have just one magnesium atom. So we must multiply by 2. That means 2 molecules of magnesium oxide, 2 magnesium atoms, and also 2 oxygen atoms. It's a molecule. It's a compound. We have 2 molecules. So now let's count again. 2 magnesium atoms enters, 2 magnesium atoms produced, 2 oxygen atoms enters, and 2 oxygen atoms produced. Now this chemical equation is balanced. The number of atoms of reactants equal to number of atoms in the product. So this is called the balancing of the equation. Number of atoms of reactants must be equal to number of atoms in the product. So let's start to count again. Magnesium, 2 atoms of magnesium enters. 2 atoms of magnesium produced. 2 atoms of oxygen enters, and also 2 atoms of oxygen produced, because 2 means 2 for magnesium and also 2 for oxygen. It's like the distribution of math. So 2 molecules of magnesium oxide. So this is called the balancing of a chemical equation. Any chemical equation must be balanced. Means number of atoms of reactants must be equal to number of atoms in the product. So this is the balancing of any chemical equation.